Hey guys! I hope that you guys are doing amazing in the world. My name is Shikha and I welcome you to my channel. I'm so grateful that you guys are listening, subscribing, and commenting on my channel. I really appreciate the support. In this video, I wanted to speak to you guys about my own journey in the past through my quarter life crisis. I've been reading a lot about midlife crisis, I guess because I'm getting into my 30s and I'm 35. So I guess this is probably the time around which people have their midlife crisis, perhaps, or maybe 45. But I had my quarter life crisis very early on. Actually, not even at quarter life. I was not 25 and I had my crisis, my existential crisis. I was actually 21 or 20 actually, if I really think about it. Yeah, I was 20 when I first had my crisis, when I realized something is wrong with the world that I live in and this is not how I want to live my life, right? And so I want to share my journey and my own crisis with you because perhaps you're going through your own crisis and I want to give you solace that it is possible to get out of it, to gain a lot of freedom and insight from it. Actually, I think it's one of the best things that ever happened to me. And I'm grateful for it, even though when I was in it, within it, and inside deep within it, it was really terrible. It was actually one of those experiences that really scarred me and made me hate myself and despise my life. And I was almost at the point of suicide. I didn't, because I would never do that to my family. But it was an extremely tough time in my life. And I guess that's one of the reasons why I wanted to share it with you as well. Because if you are going through that tough time, realize that it is just temporary and you will get out of it. It's not something that's going to last forever. Actually, it's a good thing that you're going through it, right? So when I was 20, okay, let me give you a little bit of background. So my parents always wanted me to become a doctor. Now they're brown or Indian, and so this is typical, right? Everyone wants their kids, every Indian parent wants their kid to either become an engineer, lawyer, or doctor. And it's not a cliche. It's not maybe as much true anymore because now they understand or realize the value of other professions that perhaps make more money, for example, computer programming or environmental engineering or things like that, So they're not really restricted anymore to those three professions. But in my case, they were absolutely adamant that because I was so smart, I should become a doctor. I would definitely get into medical school, and I'm so caring and sympathetic and I have so much empathy. And so, all of that stuff kind of related to the fact that I should become a doctor, right? And so because I love my parents, I still do, and I believe that they care about me and they have their best intentions for me, I believe that was true. I was like, all right, cool, fine. If I can do it, I'll do it for you guys. And so I applied and I studied crazy hard. I missed out on a lot of experiences because of it. It's one of the reasons why I would always tell my children to spend more time playing than studying if I had kids. But yeah, I missed out on a lot of experiences. I worked really hard and I applied to medical school the first time around and I failed miserably. I did not get accepted into even a single school and I applied to about maybe like 8 or 10. And so I was like, all right, cool, that's okay. The first time sometimes doesn't work. I'll apply again. And I applied again and I failed again. I was like, oh boy, okay, fine. Maybe third time's a charm. And I didn't want to disappoint my parents. I was like, all right. I was working full time at the time, so it was fine. I was still making money and it was all right. It was just something that I was like, all right, let me just try again. I have income coming in. It's not a big deal. I applied again, failed again miserably. Not even a single school was interested in me becoming a doctor or accepting me as a doctor. Now, at that point in time, I had never really failed so drastically. I had always been successful because I was a good learner, a good student, and I always got pretty good grades. And everyone loved me. My teachers loved me, all my friends loved me, my parents loved me, families loved me. So it was just like I was on top of the world. All of a sudden, I was dashed down to the ground. Like I was thrown to the ground and I was like told, basically, I thought I was told, that I'm worthless. You're worthless. You can't get into med school. What were you even thinking? You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. And as soon as that happened, the house of cards that I had built my life upon, the fact that I'm smart and I'm going to become a doctor, and that was my life pattern and my life path, and there was no other plan B. I did not think that there could be a necessity even for a plan B. That's the plan A, and I don't need a plan B. And so I went through a little bit of a crisis, and that was my quarter life crisis actually, because as soon as I realized that that's not the path for me, all of a sudden, And I'm so grateful for this. All of a sudden I started questioning, what is my path, right? What am I here to do? Why did the universe put me here? And boom, as if like a light bulb went off in my head, I realized that I had never asked this question to myself before. Because I'd always assumed that that was a path for me, that I was going to become a doctor. There was no need for me to think about what I wanted to do with my life. I knew what I was going to do with my life. I was going to become a doctor. I was going to work as a doctor for a few years, and then I was going to join Doctors Without Borders, and I was going to work around the world and save the world. That was my dream, my goal. That was my path. I didn't have to think about it. It was set in stone. From the time I was maybe 5 years old, I knew that I was going to become a doctor. All of a sudden, I had to start asking that important question that I'd never asked before. And as I said, I'm so grateful for that, because even though it was painful sitting down there and realizing I have no clue what the hell I'm supposed to do with my life. And realizing that fact, realizing that I don't know what my talents and abilities are. Yeah, I'm smart. Yeah, I can write. Yeah, I'm a little bit good at communication. Yeah, people love me. But what am I supposed to do with all that stuff? How am I supposed to use it in order to build a life that's worthy, that makes an impact, that can create a world that's better? How can I do that with who I am, right? And so I sat down and I did a lot of work on myself, guys, a lot of work by myself. I was self-motivated, which is a great thing, because I wanted to realize, even though I had a job and it paid really well, it was a government job, I didn't need to leave it, they would never fire me, I could stick with that job for the rest of my life and nothing would matter, right? But that's not what was my life purpose. That was not the reason I was put on this planet for. Not the main purpose. Perhaps that was a side thing that I could do for a little bit. But my main purpose was still unclear, and I had to figure it out. And I spent a lot of time, as I said, guys, reading hundreds of books. I read so much. I was always reading books, reading self-help books or books about careers, books about purpose. Hundreds. I literally read hundreds of books in that time period. I listened to audiobooks all the time. YouTube wasn't that popular at the time, or I just wasn't into it that much, so I didn't watch as many videos as I would have if I was living at this point in time. But I read a lot. I took notes like mad, and I journaled like crazy. I was always, if I was not reading, I was writing. I was writing out my thoughts, and I was writing out what I was and why I was here. What do I think about myself? What are my talents? Why should I spend my time worrying about this stuff? Why can't I just live doing what I was doing? Everyone was happy with the way I was living my life. I had my job and I was making really good money, and it was a good life. It gave me everything that I wanted, typically according to society. And so people were surprised that I was still in angst. I still had this existential crisis where I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And they would look at me like, but you have a job, so why are you so angsty? Why are you so anxious? Why do you care so much? Just work that job until you have to retire, and then that's it. You have nothing to worry about, right? But for me, it was not enough. It didn't feel enough. Also, it wasn't the right environment for me. Everyone in my workplace, as government employees can be, were bitter and just so bitter and negative. I just could not imagine myself staying in that situation for the next 30 years just for a retirement paycheck at the end of it. I would die before that happened. I knew that I was going to physically obviously die, but also inside my soul was dying little by little. And my soul was the reason why I started this journey, because my soul started tapping against me, saying, there's something you're missing here, Boom. There's something you're supposed to be doing here. You're not paying attention to the right things. You're wasting your time. Start figuring it out, because if you don't, then I'm going to die a slow death here and you're going to become a zombie, right? And I was already in the process of becoming that zombie, right? Because it was so painful to realize that I didn't know what I was doing in my life, right? And a lot of my time, when I was not, journaling or reading and all that stuff, a lot of my time I spent in consumeristic tendencies where I bought a lot of shit because I was upset and sad and angry with myself that I didn't know what I was doing in my life. I spent a lot of time drinking. I've told you guys that before. I spent a lot of time partying, going clubbing, blacking out to the point, drinking to the point of blackouts, and just terrible things, right? I mean, I'm glad it only lasted maybe 4 or 5 years perhaps. And then I was able to realize that this is not the path I'm supposed to be going on. And of course, I needed to go through that in order to be the person I am right now, in order to be able to speak to you guys with this little bit of authority. But that was a tough period in my life. I absolutely have to say that I don't wish it upon anyone, but I still do, because it was so poignant, so useful for me to be in the spot where I am right now. If I hadn't gone through that, I would not be here. Absolutely, I would not be here standing in front of you, doing these videos, talking about my life and telling you all the insights I've gained, because I wouldn't have any insights. I would be drunk out of my mind, or probably I'd be in a hospital by now, because I really did not take care of myself. I ate really shitty food. As I said, drank a lot. I didn't smoke, thank God. I never took that habit up, which is good. And I didn't do drugs, which is good as well. But it was not a very good life, and I was not very caring about myself. And I'm sure I would have ended up in the hospital eventually if I did not stop that lifestyle, right? It was a really terrible thing to do, and I'm so grateful I'm not doing that anymore. But as I said, I had to go through that existential crisis, that quarter-life crisis, in order to be here right now. Right? And so as I said, it took me, of course, 4 or 5 years to kind of go through that madness, but it still took me, I would say, 10 more years after that. Yeah, so I think not 10, maybe 7 or 8 years. I would say until I was 31 or 32, I truly realized who I was by the time I turned 30, 31, 32. Like, that was actually the period where I was like, all right, cool. I had that light bulb moment where I was like, all right, good, I know what I'm doing. Right now, in this moment in time, I feel a little bit better about myself. I love myself more, and I know what I'm here to do. Even though that needs to be tweaked as time goes on, I felt good about my purpose, and I kept on working on it, right? And so it took me a long time, from 20 to almost 30 to 30, 31. That's 10 years of learning and growing and reflecting and journaling and crisising in order to go through and come to the other end, to the light at the end of the tunnel. Right, to come here and to be here right now. Now, of course, the journey hasn't ended, and I still go through periods of crisis when I'm like, I don't think, I've kind of gotten distracted and I'm not on the right path anymore, and I need to self-correct myself. I need to make sure that I'm still on the journey that I want to be on. And so I'm constantly going through these moments where I need to correct my path and to move away from the distractions, right? So it's never going to be the case where you can say, all right, cool, I'm done all the work I need to do. I'm on my path. I have nothing to worry about. That's not ever going to be the case, especially if you've chosen a harder path than most, because it is a harder path, to realize what your life purpose is. It's easy, very easy to just work at a job. I know it doesn't seem that way, but it's actually much easier to work at a job, a 9-to-5 job, and to stick with that kind of typical lifestyle than to go explore the other dimension of what is my life purpose? What am I here to do? How can I do more of that? How can I make my life or create a life where I can do more of my life purpose deeds and spend less time doing the things that I don't care about, right? And so it's about creation, using your thoughts to create your life. It takes a long time, as you guys can tell. Now, of course, it took me longer because I really had very few tools that I used. I didn't meditate. Well, I did meditate, but I didn't have a lot of people around me who I could use to or look to as a role model. And so I'm so grateful that I can at least do these videos and perhaps be a little bit of a role model, but also just be a little bit of a guidepost to you guys, so you can look at my journey and say, okay, cool, she went through this. I'm going through it. I can get through it if she went through it and got through it. Does that make sense? So that's a little bit about my quarter life crisis. I hope that it made sense. If you guys have any questions, or if you want me to expound on some part of my journey, I'd absolutely love to do it. I'm more than happy to talk a little bit more about it. I love talking about it. I love sharing my journey because it was so important to me to get to where I am right now, and I know it can help someone else if they listen to it. So if you guys again have any questions, please message me anytime, and I shall see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.